to identify the hybrids. And to identify the hybrids, you need to do a lot of sequencing so you can do a structure and find the hybrids. Is that part of the issue? Is that the main issue, or is something else?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. And to
Oh,
me, I
okay.
don't, maybe I have like a different view of, I mean, what a phylogeny is. I mean, a phylogeny, it's supposed to be the reconstruction of the evolutionary history of a group, and we use these programs to make a phylogeny, and that's what we call a phylogeny. A Raxenberg tree, we call it a phylogeny. But I think in the strict sense, a phylogeny would be the evolutionary history of the group. And if the evolutionary history of the group it's like sort of imprinted by introgression and things like that, then the Raxenberg tree or those things are not like the evolutionary representing well the evolutionary history. So we need to use other methods like detect introgression or maybe do phylogenetic networks or things like that. But maybe it's just, yeah, it's just a thought I had. That's why I think
I mean, if you wanted to write a separate paper, kind of similar to what Juan is doing on hybridization, Ecuadorian wine mania, I could see that. I mean, I guess the thing is that like, yeah, we just spent a lot of money on this, and it's like if it's going to be a separate product, then I think
I see. Yeah.
potentially yes. Like, but if if it's just to like, add more, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do like a detailed population genetic study and an analysis of hybridization, then it would make sense. Like that would be a viable reason for doing a phylogeny or for doing more sequencing in Ecuador. But if the end goal is just to do one paper, which is a phylogeny paper, I don't think it makes sense. Like you can do phylogenetic networks without 500 samples from Ecuador.
Oh yeah, actually we can include a lot, but
Yeah. Well,
still.
and already like you could probably do an analysis, a structure analysis with 115 samples in Ecuador with what you have and still detect hybrids. And maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you do something like what Juan is doing.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And then like let's see what it looks like. And then if we think it's promising, then maybe you could do another hybridization paper.
Right.
And you could compare and contrast the two.
I see. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the 120 samples that you have the sequence, how many of those have been identified as hybrid? More or less?
All the ones I removed, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I did a structure analysis for only for Ecuador, Colombia, but
Mhm.
due to the high number of taxa, and I needed to redo those analyses, and I will with the new data we have now. I'll try to make
Yeah.
it in a more sort of the way you did it, with less taxa, say, that co-occur, rather than including everything we have, and that's what we did back in those days. And it was kind of hard to interpret, but because say we have k equals 10, but we had say 15 species taxa, so it was kind of hard to.
I mean, I'm not against doing a population like kind of what Nora was talking about, like where you're doing more dense sampling and doing more of a population genomic species boundaries paper. I just don't want to spend a lot more money on it without having a good reason for it and actually having all the data go into a paper. Because it's like at some point you just have to stop.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
I think
I just thought it. Yeah.
if you wanted
Bring
to
it
do
up.
something, I mean, it would be interesting to see like if in geographic locations, I mean, if species boundaries are even more permeable in Ecuador since the divergence times are even shorter, so is there even greater hybridization or do we see that species are, less, do they overlap less or or closely related species overlap? I'm okay with it as long as there's going to be like a product.
I think that at this point the most gap that I see in that phylogeny is the outside of the Andes.
I think the Andes is super well sampled, but we have also Rehmannia in the Guyana Shield, Rehmannia in the Atlantic forest, we have Rehmannia in the Caribbean island and in the Central America. So if we don't have that representation in the phylogeny, that is more important for me, if we want to construct a phylogeny of the genus, because now is being a phylogeny, very detailed phylogeny of the Andes, of the Andean species.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that would probably be like, I feel like that could be a more, like, if we could get collaborators. I know people in like Puerto Rico need collaborators to collect for us in some of the areas in like the Caribbean or in,
Yeah, that's a good point for
I think yeah, like if we were gonna like, I think, I don't know,
Sure.
whatever it is, I feel like,
picture.
I mean, if the goal is just to improve the phylogeny, then I think that makes sense, Pacho. If the goal is to really dissect hybridization in Ecuador, then I think you could do more sequencing, and that would also make sense. I think we just have to decide what the goal is. You know, like,
But
is the
again, it
question
has to be.
hybridization, or is it a phylogeny?
But if we add this new hybridization study, it needs to be clear who's gonna do it and it's gonna be part of your dissertation, Eduardo, or not. Because if it's not part of your dissertation, I will also discourage it unless somebody else takes it, and it's Alex or it's Juan or it's Francisco who takes that project and moves it forward. Because we already have a dissertation, so just adding more chapters, I think it's unrealistic.
I mean, we could do it for if Andrea wanted to work on it, but she's only got 6 weeks here, so.
Mhm.
I mean, but that would probably do more for clarifying species boundaries than like looking at specimens again.
Yeah, we'll also have a better understanding of what we have once we check the sequence so we can justify. So maybe that would clarify some of the species that we have, or maybe we'll bring more chaos. Maybe we'll have more hybrids than what we thought. So probably in December we can share the results and see how the things are moving.